I hope to change your perspective in this space that it's not true. We, in our individual families, we try, and through many of people like where I'm from, as well as other islands from FSM or the fully associated states that are here, I can see some of them. We're trying our best. We call ourselves, we want to empower our community members through programs that help them see themselves as agents of change.
Howdy guys, and welcome to this new episode of this new podcast that we're having. It's called One Micronesia, and of course this is where a podcast where we feature our brothers and sisters from the FAS community who do really good in our community, who do all things good. And of course the clip you just heard, and of course I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit us today in the studio here. Of course, Nadine, welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
All good. So Nadine, before we go on, just go ahead and quick intro, where you're from and stuff like that.
Sure. So Raranim, my name is Nedine Songeni. I am fi Chuuk in Chuuk. I'm from Farapages, Afakur Utat, and been on this beautiful rock for the past almost 15 years, and it's been a great place to work and live, that's definitely sure.
Awesome. And of course, my name is Victorious. I'm from Yat.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've always heard you, but I'm
thank
so
you.
glad to finally meet the face behind the name and the voice.
No,
So
yeah.
nice to meet another Micronesian.
Well, thank you.
In the media.
Yeah,
space.
it's been fun. What I do. Let's talk about. Before we bring it back in time a little bit, let's talk about that clip that we just heard. This was the clip of a soundbite of you at the town hall meeting, and this was literally after the incident, the machete incident that happened in Manila.
Right.
Talk about what was going through your mind, because being in that meeting, and that's kind of okay. Standing up and grabbing that mic, I think it took a lot, and a lot of people. I've read pretty much all the comments on Facebook, and I got a shout out to you because that video that we reposted, the full version of your speech, garnished over 100,000 views.
Indeed.
With 200,000 comments, over 1,000 reactions, and all reactions good. So that means what you did.
It's a relief.
And when you stood up, when they gave you the mic, and the way you were talking, you were a little shook, you were a little scared.
Yeah.
Tell us what was going through your mind.
Yeah, so after the whole incident, it was one of those times where I would be afraid to find out what's next on the news.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever it's a news about someone from Chuuk, where I'm from, so it's always close to home, close to heart. And so when I saw I couldn't help but look up all the other media coverage and the comments, which can be not so good.
The comments on there, we've all read them.
Right.
Sometimes they're good comments, sometimes more of the bad.
Right. For me, it helped kind of fueled my my reason to want to continue in the work that I do. So I work with Humanities Guanghan, and we do a lot of great programs that they're diverse, they're multifaceted. So with me being from Chuuk, I've always wanted to make sure that I incorporate all of my community members into the program. So that was one way for me to connect the dots. Okay, something that I'm doing, and then there's this issue where that unfortunate incident. So how can we work around that, or how can we be proactive about incidents like those so that they don't recur again? And so that was, for me, reading those comments kind of fueled me okay, you gotta go to this meeting, because for the most part, a lot of at least for me and people that I know very close, we tend not to go to those meetings. We kind of see it as a meeting for just the ones that have voices.
Right.
And so we kind of have this it's not meant for me. And that's kind of how when I became, when I turned 18 on Guam, it took me a while to even want to register to vote, because I had a really bad incident where I read a really negative comment about people from FSM who are U.S. citizens to have any say. So it made me kind of not want to participate in that kind of civic life. And so this one kind of helped me like want to get into that. And so that day I was not as nervous because I was sitting with a lot of people I knew who are doing in their own work with the community, so I wasn't as nervous. But when the dialogue got a little bit, at least to me, one-sided, even though I was trying to justify what everyone was saying, that's kind of how I live, is try to understand the other person's point of view, why they're coming out this way. So it became a little bit too much for me that I did not plan to get up, but I was compelled to. I really was. Like right now, I'm a very emotional person. Okay. So it was just important to try to address some of those concerns that were valid, but to also give, I think, our side of the dialogue, because I feel like that's something that's always missing, and I really, like, I think I said that it's just going to keep continuing this idea that we don't care about these issues. We're perpetrators, but we don't care about, righting the wrong. So that was my way to kind of cope with the situation.
And you said a lot in there. I think one of the first things that I caught when I first listened to it was you talked about respect. And I think that's a very, very key thing. And I think it's in every culture. The number one virtue that, they teach us as we're growing up is respect.
Respect, right.
So where do you think that lies in? Because people in the comments, and I think I saw millions and millions of it from every post, for the news, that the key thing is people are saying you're not respecting, or you guys are disrespectful. And I think the point where it says you guys, I think that's where you try to come in and address, like, it's not everybody, and you talked about your story and where you work and stuff like that. So what do you think, because I wanted to point out, to pull out that out of your speech, the respect part. How do you think we could go about doing that if they're saying, do you see respect being taught? I'm pretty sure in your family, in your household, respect is one thing, but how do you see this being taught in maybe households who don't really teach respect? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I respect it. I think it's very inherent in our culture. So it's so complicated in that I don't want to say that families aren't teaching their kids respect. I think everyone is at this is my way of trying to justify, but try to understand why there would be these individuals that tend to be on the news a lot, or tend to do disrespectful things. But these same individuals, like, I would meet, if I met them, or I did meet some of them, they're different. So I cannot really say that they're not being taught respect. Sometimes I feel like, because I sometimes see myself in a situation where I'm stuck in a misconception, and I kind of want to give up and don't care about what I do after. That's how I'm kind of seeing it, but I don't think that's really a correct statement that I noticed was kind of being thrown around in the comments and then being said at that meeting. That's how I see it, because almost everything that we do is based on the respect to one another, or to our surroundings. So I don't know. I think there are ways to, I think in some cases where you need to really sit down. I don't know how to help in that regard, but through this program that I do with called the Mother Read, Father Read Family Literacy Program, is kind of revisiting those family values that they did have, or the parents know or were trying to teach their kids, and then trying to make their kids connect to that cultural understanding or value through a book that we want to emphasize, and then for them to see themselves as, okay, I need to do this, or I need to understand why my mom wants to teach me about respecting my elders, or respecting law enforcement, or respecting property. I think everyone's experience is different, so their degree of showing respect might be misconstrued. I don't know, because I think almost everyone I know they're taught that, but maybe the way they. Yeah, sorry, I can't answer that. I don't know.
I think you were getting to the point where I think you were trying to say is, respect is being taught, It's just it's the way they view or the way they react or the way they show other people is kind of different from or from because I've seen it everywhere, and I'm not only the Chuukese community, the Chuukese families, Yappies families too. And what I see is I was born and raised in Yap, so I moved here to Guam, and I think one of the biggest things that people always bring up in just amongst the communities, and they always say this like, oh, I mean, you're from Yap, but you grew up in Guam, so you don't have any respect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's because they see Guam being a modernized American. So because you guys have are living the American way, you guys kind of like forgot the like for myself it's the Yappies way. So you kind of lost the respect around there. So I think we have to bridge the gap in between. And I think that's where you were talking about the families teaching the younger generation the value of respect, and I guess it's really trying to meet in the middle because it's so hard now to see for kids who for FAS kids who grew up on Guam, they're growing up into this society where it's everything is fast paced, everything is different, but I think when it comes to respect, I think we really have to find that middle ground, and I think that's how we can grow the knowledge and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess I want to make sure I make it clear because after that town hall meeting, I was kind of, I had like a long debate with my family because they're like, why did you do that? You're gonna, they were afraid for me to be so public and vocal because that's, all these other things because come with being vocal and public.
And that is that, and because it's not really, and plus we're not, like you said in the beginning, we don't go to these things because we believe that there's people who are supposed to talk.
Our spokesperson.
But then we don't really see them doing anything. That's why we're stepping up, and I think that's what everybody in the comments that I read is saying, are thanking you for, because you had the courage to stand up and voice your concern. Maybe it was an 8-minute concern, a 50-minute concern, but you voiced it, and that was a good start to something that can build up to something better.
Yeah, there's definitely people that are doing excellent work. I think in that particular setting, it was just, there was all these points being thrown out, and it was, that kind of, when you're in a situation where you want to try to defend yourself, and then it keeps adding up all these things against you, and you want to like try to answer each one, but you don't have the time, or are people even interested to know your side? And that's why I really felt compelled to come up, because I don't know if anyone would have articulated what I was trying to articulate in that particular setting, and if there was ever going to be another chance for something like that where someone said A and I'm going to answer to A, someone said B. I guess I was so nervous that there wouldn't be a time to address specific things being said, because it's always going to be me going home and me and my family will talk about it, we'll like commiserate, like, oh gosh, and then that's it. And I feel like that's something I wanted to change, maybe not unintentionally want to do, but I did want to make it clear, because I was trying to, for the sake of time at the town hall meeting, but I identify as being from Chuuk, from FAS, but I was born in Saipan.
Okay. My
parents immigrated there back in like the late 80s, and so I grew up in Saipan. But what my parents did to really instill that value of family and kinship and respect is every year we'd stay with like our grandma back in Chuuk.
Nice.
And so like I think that might have been helpful in kind of me seeing the differences growing up. The lifestyle. So that's why I feel like I can see where some people are having a difficulty in kind of balancing living in a place like Guam. It's like in the middle. It's kind of like trying to be American but also Chuukese or Micronesian. Yeah, I'm still trying to understand that. I'm taking a Peoples and Culture of Micronesia course at UOG to kind of just give me another insight to the way anthropologists, I guess, study people. So I should know what these people found, and be able to critique it and be able to compare it to so I'm not an expert, but
nobody's an expert. I don't think anybody's an expert at this point in time. We see the shift in cultures and everything, so it's more of just knowing a piece of it and just keeping that and just grow it as you go. I think that's what our culture identity is all about.
Yeah, I think something that I really want to that I really wanted to get out of that meeting, and for my whole life, and then even in the future, it's just for people to want to listen to the other person, or to allow another person to express. Because as I said, it was hard for me to decide to go, because expression is something that's hard to like really just do, like express so freely. And so other means of creative expressions about who you are, what you're struggling with, and then being able to listen to that other person or seeing their point of view, I feel like that's something that gets it's not as important, I guess, to like listen. I think that's something that is missing. So I appreciate this podcast to kind of allow for the other side to.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the beauty of a podcast, is we get to go on, we get to stretch it out just a little bit and get into depth at some of the points that maybe you tried to share at the town hall meeting, but you didn't have that much time because it was time limited. But what other, so if this was a whole new thing and you were to redo your, what other things did you want to add to your speech?
I would add that I didn't speak at all.
It wasn't me, okay? I swear it wasn't me.
It was, but I think I would have. So there's sometimes a beauty in like things that are unplanned, because it's from in that moment that you're feeling that whatever emotion, and because to try to like write up something, prepare, sometimes it takes a while, or you can't really get there. But yeah, something I changed, that I didn't speak, and then but I'd actually really want to share with people this other program that I do called Speaking to Water and Creating Community.
Okay.
And this is where it's like a series of conversation, kind of like what we were trying to have at that town hall meeting, but they're guided in that we watch videos that are culturally relevant, and then being able to expand those videos to like contemporary times to talk about, or to reference, or to compare, because there's just so much things to talk about or to be able to understand. And I think one town hall meeting was not enough. Yeah,
I think that's never, because it shouldn't be a one-time thing. It should be a continued thing, like, you know, hold meetings here, do little projects there.
Yeah.
And I think it's been, I think after that, I think we've seen a lot more happen after that, a lot more projects, a lot more activities happen. I know there's a lot of cleanups. I know Menialu and Micronesia, the Micronesia Resource Center have done a lot too. Of course, we just got done with the 5K, and so I think there's a lot of things happening now, and it's more, it's at a fast pace where people won't stop. But
I'm in a place where I think for to really see change, it has to be on both sides.
Okay.
And so I'll be honest, I haven't participated in those just because I have this. I'm also very critical, so I'd be like, oh, I have all these different reasons of supporting things and not supporting things. But those conversations that I was talking about, it gets the other side that normally has voice to be in a space where they're kind of forced to listen to the other side. So if I'm just gonna come and show you that I can clean up the yard, or the that's a good thing for the community, but is that having the other person understand myself as a person, or as a person with feelings, or as a person with ideals that are maybe similar, or values that are similar? That's where I want to break through.
Okay. I see,
So
it's
a good scratching the surface. But if there's really going to be any change, it has to be on all sides, to really listen, or to extend and engage, I think, because that's where the beauty, like, of social media, you get to see it, but then are you engaging with that person? So I would rather that I'm in smaller intimate settings with people that want to ask questions, and be able to, like, be open to critiques, and be open to, no, that's a misconception, or
and I think at this point in time, I think we're supposed to actually appreciate critiquing, because I think in our cultures, I think it's critiquing when it comes to just like, no, you know what, I'm not gonna listen.
I know. I'm just
Right, like, you know what, I'm not gonna sit here and I'm not gonna let you tell me what to do, or or sit here and just hear your problems and stuff like that. So I think one of the big things was also when it comes to the culture. I think we're at that point. I'm gonna go and rank again, because there's always a rank.
Yeah.
I believe there's always that rank, and being the youngest, I can't just go out there and
Same here.
some of the politicians
Elders.
from FSM who we hear. I can't go out there and stand in front of them and pick up a mic and be like, yo, like this. But I think it's time, and I think the more we wait and the more we sit back, the more I think that's not gonna help. I think it's time we stand up and be like, okay, we're not disrespecting you, because we know we elected you to go into those positions, but I think this is time we voice our concerns, and I think that's what you did, and you took the first step, and now it's up to everyone else to if they see something they don't like, they speak out on it. That's what I think.
Yeah, to speak, but not in like a. I get worried about like where it comes off as like very strong or negative confrontation.
Oh no, I'm not saying like go
like
like into their face and like yo. No, I was saying
through these like that's why I feel like all these organizations that are doing these excellent programs, so it's kind of working around being able to engage or have dialogues without like just I don't like the way you look, or look at me, or just kidding. But no, because after the whole video, I got in trouble from elders. Like there was talk behind, like there was some negativity on in my own community. Like, why did you do that? So it was a learning thing for me too. Like I mean, I knew I had elders in the area that I stood up in front of, and for my respect for them to not want to do that, but then also that it was almost, I'll just say passion. I don't want to say anger, but that passion in me to speak. But so it's also for me learning the other or reinforcing cultural values that maybe get wayside because I also grew up away from Chuuk. But I don't know.
Because I think you spoke because you felt the need to, and I think you were speaking on behalf of your family, people you care about, people who are seeing, people who are not folks who are not doing these things, but at the same time they're getting the feedback and the vibe that they're getting from all the social media. And I'm pretty sure and out there people will look at you differently, like, oh, okay, they did this, they did that. Well, it's not really them. So I think you stepped up and you spoke because I think it was time. I think that was the main thing.
There's things that I know of that are never that makes it in the media or make it in the mainstream conversation, are the struggles of a lot of the people that I know, even myself, and so those were things going in my head, like, okay, these are all these negative comments about my people, but then there's nothing about the other side of their struggles, like living here, which can be, if it were covered, it'll look pretty bad.
To make a difference.
It'll make a difference, or it'll rock some boats, and we tend not to rock the boat in a lot of situations. So, for me, it was a way to remind people that we're not all the same, I guess, and it was, I don't know.
So let's talk about what you do. Of course, you talked a little bit about it to some of the programs. What's the most rewarding experience for you in what you do in your line of work?
Yeah, rewarding experience. One specific rewarding experience. It's so hard to choose because I really do try to tie in my work with my everyday life in ways that I can support my community members through the programs that I run. And so one of my favorite ones is the family literacy program, and I've been doing it for the past 8 years, and it's such a great way to work with a lot of our at-risk families and then just the rest of the community that does participate to look at storytelling as our, how do I say this? I just love that when our participants at the end of the program speak to their experiences throughout the literacy program, and that it helps them be able to it's so hard to explain. Sorry.
Let's talk about what you do when you have a sit down with these families. Like, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered that's always been happening?
Yeah, a lot of them are, for the most part, with they have language barriers.
Okay.
And a lot of them like maybe finished up to 5th grade or 8th grade, or didn't have the opportunity to pursue or continue. And so this family program, this community-based family program, kind of helps put them in this setting where they can participate as a participant or a student without like a lot of the weight of needing to have a good grade, but just working with them, working with what they know, their context, and then being able to highlight those things that they do know, those knowledge, and then being able to learn from one another. So I try to model that program by having our regular curriculum, where we use these multicultural books to talk about important family and child development themes, but then at the same time I turn it back and I have them teach us about a cultural trait.
Oh, okay.
So that, and then but connecting it with the book or the theme. So it's kind of like expanding those themes of the book to everyday issues or family issues or values and things like that. And so I like that we can do that because you can cover so many subjects.
Right.
And so that's kind of my most favorite projects so far, but I like all of them.
They're all awesome, and honestly, they all are awesome.
Yeah.
I think what you guys are doing is amazing. To actually, instead of leaving people behind, where you're going back and you're pulling them, and you're like, okay, you're not. And I mean, we don't want to leave you to the side. We want to, pull you back, get on the road and just teach them the ins and outs of the different things. At the same time, you said one of the biggest things, and I think it's not only in the Chuukese community, not in the Pohnpei, it's in all the communities, is the language barrier. And so I think that is one of the key things, that if you slow it down for them, really break it down to affect I think when you break it down and it gets easier, I think they learn to catch fast.
There's that's like that for me. That's like the standard way we've always seen languages, right? We are trying to shift that by like, okay, what is your way of we're trying to expand the program so that we're actually highlighting or things that that other participants know, and using that as a basis of what we're going to teach in a literacy program. It might be, we're still kind of fixing that up, but kind of like shifting gears on how we look at language. Like, it's not supposed to be a barrier. How can we make it so that it's something that allows them to connect, so that they can learn from that connection? Like, oh, I can see this word meaning this, so that now I know how to use that English word. And it's a long process. We were not gonna like solve it with that one time, but then we encourage a lot of the participants to continue on and empower them with tools and things to engage with their kids. So we teach these parents how to bring books to their kids, to make it alive, and make the kids want to see reading and education as an important asset to have. And because we have our own forms of education and knowledge, right, in our islands prior to Western civilization. And so there's still being able to hold on to that, but then also things that we are being taught, like in our Western schools, but tying it together so that they can go hand in hand, and so that no one is left behind. Because there's things that I still want to learn about my culture, and then being able to use my love of language arts or reading to talk about an important cultural trait, if that makes sense.
So no, it is a win-win.
Yeah.
You're teaching at the same time you're learning.
Yeah.
So it's win-win for both.
Yeah,
parties.
that's something I think we always try to do at the council, but also, like, since I can remember growing up in Saipan, and I stayed in Hawaii for a little bit. and then in Guam. And so I saw all those, I was able to experience all those different degrees of barriers, any barriers, and then also degrees of discrimination. And so it's always been in my heart to like find ways to make it work for everybody. I mean, I have a soft spot for my people, but I want them to be able to look forward to things that we enjoy because we're able to. So I want to give them those tools so they could, go to these town hall meetings and be able to feel like their voice is valid, or their
Let's talk about we're getting closer to closing out here. What are some advices that you would want to give our people, the FAS citizens, the Chuukese people, if you had to give them one or two lines of things to think about, or on how we can better ourselves, or how to go forward from here, what would it be?
It's hard for me to answer that because, like, I don't want to.
Or just one thing, just one thing, one simple thing.
Yeah.
Or it can't be. It doesn't have to be the most harshest thing, but just one simple word or one phrase that you would want to say.
I think something that I could tell my community members, as well as on the other side of the community, is just to be open. Because if you're not open and tolerant to differences, then I feel like we're never going to get past those differences, and we're going to continue to be stuck in our, I don't like this, so I'm not going to, I'm not going to change the way I see, so I'm going to continue the way I see this person. And so it's both sides, because, you have some old school Micronesians, like, what? No, you don't do that because of this, right? And you want to, like...
You're younger, you don't have, you haven't had the, past, because like I said, when it goes back and we have to break it down, we're going to be here for days on days to break down
exactly.
the cultures and ranking, and it's hard, and we want so bad to move away from that, but we can't, because it's part of us. So like I said, we have to find middle ground and all these things to bridge the gap and find middle ground, because if we're going to leave that behind, then we're leaving our culture, but we don't want to leave our culture. So I think the in-between is where we need to find.
Definitely. That's what I want to get to. I want to find balance for myself, because I'm continuously working to find that balance. But then I feel like I have the opportunity to think more about these issues from different point of view. So I want to make sure that other community members that I want to work with have those tools to be open to differences, and to be open to other ideas, and then to use that to find also that balance. Because there's things that I feel like it's going to be hard to chip away, but if we really do want to live in a cohesive, peaceful society, we always got to compromise. We always got to, but that's even a word I don't like to use, compromise, but we got to find a middle ground to work with one another.
All right. Well, that pretty much comes to an end. I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us here and just voice some concerns, talk about life, talk about situations and stuff. So thank you so much, Nadine.
No, thank you so much for this, for wanting me to even be here. There's definitely far worthy, deserving Micronesians, but I'm glad you're going to be continuing this on.
Yes.
But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Anytime. Thank you so much for standing up that day. So to everybody else listening, thank you guys, and this has been a talk with Nadine. That pretty much wraps up another edition of the One Micronesia podcast. We're going to have more of this. We're going to sit down and talk to our brothers and sisters from the FAS community who are doing awesome jobs, awesome things here on Guam. So be sure to check out the next one. My name is Victorious for Guam's Favorite. Bye.